So today what we're going to talk about is cover crop. So I'm going to be going through terminating the cover crop. We'll be looking at green manure and how we use that in our system here. And then we'll also be reviewing drainage and how we're using drainage to carry us through the big wet in Australia in a section, and decisions that we made around this part of the garden in cover cropping. This has traditionally been our market garden, and what we've dealt with here is December, January, February, we'll see a majority of our rain for the year. And this area has historically, we've lost topsoil in this section trying to grow food down here for 3 years. This year I made a decision to put pretty much the entire market garden under cover crop and move our food production to a new area that had better drainage. However, this section is particularly good for winter growing. So my real goal has been to grow green manure, maintain the soil that I have down here, the integrity of what we ended the winter with fully, and also evaluate the work that we did on drainage for the year. And clearly from what I'm seeing, we're not done with the amount of work we need to do on drainage. So two things. This is an idea how much cover crop we have in here on my right. And that has gone up 3 meters, and what it's allowing us to do is maintain that soil. Rain, when it's coming down, I'll step over here. So when rain's coming in and you're getting these hard, torrential rains, it's actually hitting all this, and it's not actually hitting the ground and washing the soil off. I can dig down in here and you'll see I'm not having runoff, I'm not losing soil, I'm keeping everything in. I got these deep roots going down in the ground, holding that together. Down in there underneath that soil, you'll find a whole web of roots. And all that web of roots is wrapped around that soil, and that soil is still bioactive right now. It's still got a lot of life going through it. It's got water, it's got roots, it's got all this green manure growing up here. So I'm basically growing my compost for my winter. Compost operation's great that we have it, but it's a lot of work. A lot of churning beds, then moving material back, going around the farm, collecting chicken manure, checking cow manure, cutting grasses, getting my wood chips through my wood chipper, all that so I can come up with a compost. I'm cutting that process out right now. When I cut this down, and all this down, we'll mulch it in. So we got this piece of equipment here that we added to the farm this year. And this mulcher allows us to go through. Unlike a mower that will slice it and throw it to the side, the mulcher turns over and over a series of blades. It's almost like throwing something in a blender. And in that blender, it's going to chop everything up real fine. So we come back here and we look at this section. This is where I just came through. And this was 100% as tall as what we see over there. And now I basically got this mulch down on the ground. This, as it browns off, will come down. It's organic matter that I'm getting back into the soil. It's been pulling minerals and nutrients out of the ground this whole time, collecting solar energy. Plus there were a ton of sunflowers in here, which brought in a lot of birds. The birds bring in a lot of organic matter. They leave their manure behind. That falls to the ground. We end up with all that, bringing in just tons of nutrient into it. Now the second point I was talking to was drainage. The center of my beds are dry and they're holding out to my perimeter, and then it's still too wet. And if I come back down to this edge, we dug an ag drain in this section here. And then once we put that in, we covered it up with blue metal. But we're gonna have to come and revisit this and take this in a little further, closer to the bed. I'm gonna have to come down a little deeper here because I've got a little bit of an edge that the water's not flowing over. And once we fix this section, we'll come back in this winter when the ground's dry, because you don't want to do anything while it's wet. It'll take us years to recover that. We'll come in because I've got a problem over on my edges. And when I came through on the tractor, you can see my wheels were holding fine right here. And as soon as I got to this edge, I was all wet. because this bed's draining off some to the sides. So I'll put another ag drain right down the perimeter here. That'll go down not as deep, probably 30 centimeters in the middle, and by the time it gets out here it'll fall about 50 centimeters. I'll cover that up with some blue metal, and I'll cover that up with, I don't know, 50 centimeters, 75 centimeters of wood chip, and that'll start to bring some fungal matter in. It'll also support these acacias and bananas and other things that we have in here. But these are in here to build an ecosystem, so we're not just market gardening. The goal is to actually, what other wildlife, what other species can we bring in, what beneficial insects can I bring in, what are all the things I can do to integrate what we'd call agroforestry into a market garden environment in order to get better soil, better species movement, and also to have beneficial bugs. I'll probably still throw out some cover crop back in these beds today, and so it'll be mulched. I'm putting my cover crop in real fast because I'm gonna have a big rain. I'll let that rain come in and get these seeds off again, and we'll be back off, and I'll grow this cover crop for another 6 weeks to 8 weeks until we're ready to come in and plant. And then what we'll do is we'll terminate the cover crop. We'll integrate it in with the power harrow, which I won't be doing now because it's too wet. I'm just gonna seed right on it, and we'll integrate that in. We'll build up more soil, and we start putting our carrots, beets, all of our other veggies that grow really well down here. So where I am now is I still have 1, 2, 3, 4 more blocks after the one I finished here to flail mulch, and then I'll come back in and seed them, and I get all that done before it starts to rain. So that's where I'm off to right now. So we're still working on how to resolve this market garden area we have and how wet it's been. So we've gone through and we've flail mulched this. We've actually flail mulched 6 blocks down here, and some of them were still a lot wetter than we'd like to see. Last year what we ended up doing was tarping it when we had terminated the cover crop, and what we got underneath the tarp when we pulled them off, we weren't really happy. It was really wet and boggy. So this, and there's not a lot of organic matter down. A couple of them we had enough when it went down. Some of them, the cover crop didn't give us quite as much mulch if we wanted on top. So we're trialing something new this time. We've gotten ahead and rolled, we got these bales over here. We've rolled 2 of those out on each of these blocks. These blocks are 20 meters long, 10 meters wide. And we've basically layered out a thick layer of this mulch down on the ground. And we're looking to actually use that to kill off and terminating weeds that are underneath it. This is going to be organic matter that in 6 weeks when we're ready, we'll come through and flail mulch this into fine particles and power harrow it in as soon as it's dry enough. And we'll use that as organic matter down in these beds and start to integrate into some of our clay heavy soil here. Got a couple more to get rolled out. We got 3 more bales to go out, and I'm going to finish that up now.